G'day punters and welcome back to another episode of The Snapshot, the only show where you can learn and very, very rarely sometimes learn. I'm Ryan Cook. Joining me as always is Tommy Rockcliffe. Tommy, another scintillating week of AFL footy. We're officially back in full swing. 5 teams left undefeated, 5 teams still searching for their first win. How'd you see round 2? And what was the major storyline for you?
Yeah, it was a cracking round of footy in the end, wasn't it? Oh, there's plenty to come out of it. I think we can pencil Essendon in for another year of not winning a final. I mean, Richmond back to themselves. St Kilda, that was a huge upset. It was just a really good round of footy. Fremantle, not winless. And then Melbourne. They may be the story out of it, I think, and Simon Goodwin and how they continue on. They got really hammered late in that game. So plenty of good games of footy, plenty of stories out of it.
Yeah, you talk about Melbourne there. We're going to get into them in just a little bit when we talk about the bottom 4. But let's start with the Coleman medal. Still the same usual suspects at the top of the market. Charlie Curnow, Ben King, Nick Larkey, all around that $8 mark. Jesse Hogan, $9. Jezza Cameron, $9. But the big firmer this weekend has been Sam Darcy into $10. 4 goals against the Pies on Friday. 15 touches as well, if you don't mind. We know he's only young, but he has kicked a bag before. I think he slotted 7 last year against North Melbourne late in the season. Plenty of hype around him. Are you buying it?
Yeah, I certainly am. I think the way he approaches the footy, and Darcy Moores is a good defender at running and jumping and fisting like with a straight arm, and he couldn't even get near him. So when Darcy launches at the footy and takes it at the highest point, he's near impossible to defend, and you've got to somehow find a way to take his jump away and try and body him so that he can't get a launch at it. So I'm sure that the opposition will be putting a fair bit of time into him, but it certainly wouldn't surprise. Maybe not next year, but this year with the Coleman medal, just whether he can be consistent enough. I think he's certainly the number 1 forward for the Western Bulldogs. He's certainly overtaken Norton. Norton just gets pushed out of the contest far too easy for me, and Darcy is the main man down there.
That's what you want when you're backing someone in the Coleman medal, that's for sure. Let's talk about Melbourne, though. 0-2, very disappointing over the weekend against North Melbourne. The round 1 game was promising. They only just went down in the dying stages against the Giants, but bit of a wet track that day, so you can't read too much into it. Interestingly enough, you can still take $3.60 for Melbourne to finish bottom 4, and I think that's great value. But look, it's only early days. I know they've got the Suns coming up, then they've got the Crows. Could you steer the punters into taking this bet here, Rocky?
Oh, I think you could. Like it's going to be a bit of a logjam down the bottom. You've obviously got West Coast down there, that they'll be thereabouts. Richmond probably take up 2 of the spots, and then it's the final 2. I think North Melbourne, the way they played on the weekend, will be looking to push up the ladder. Adelaide Crows finished bottom 4 last year. We know they're not going to finish there. Fremantle's probably the other one with a fair bit of pressure. So Melbourne, if they dish up what they dished up yesterday, they're in a world of hurt. And I spoke about it in our show, in our podcast just before, about there's been so many stories over a number of years about the culture and issues at Melbourne. It feels like they've probably underachieved since they won that grand final. It feels like that with the list they had, they should have won 2 or 3, or certainly been thereabouts. They've struggled to play finals since then. Maybe there's something really, really wrong there. And if Gold Coast get hold of them on Saturday afternoon at the MCG, good luck, because I tell you what, the Adelaide Crows will get hold of them the week after. So they could be in for a bottom 4 finish this year. I know it's only early. We're round 2, round 3. But if Gold Coast want to play finals as well, they've got to win games like this on the road. And I think it sets up as it's probably the game of the round. There's the storylines out of it for me are massive. And I think Melbourne may be on the losing end of that.
Yeah, you talk about teams getting a hold of one another. What about the Melbourne fans getting a hold of the Melbourne players when they went down the race on Sunday? That was grim scenes for this early in the year. And we spoke last week about coaches that could potentially be on the hot seat. I think Simon Goodwin's one that we didn't even mention, but he's firmly on there as well. Let's look ahead to Saturday night. We were speaking off air about this. Hawthorn hosting GWS down in Lonnie. I don't think there's been a game at night down in Tasmania that I can think of. So this is going to be a really unique kind of atmosphere, I think. Both unbeaten. The Giants coming off the bye. The Hawks look really, really good, but I don't think they played as well as they could have last week against the Blues. They never really shut the door on them. But look, there's also question marks around Hawthorn's scalp so far. They've only beaten Essendon, Sydney, and the Blues last week. So have they really played a top 4 team? We can't really say just yet. From a trends perspective, the last 5 games between these two teams have gone under the total. We've got Toby Green averaging close to 2 goals over his last 5 games against Hawthorn. How do you see this one playing out, Rocky?
Yeah, as you said, I don't even know if they got lights in Tasmania that work. So I'm not sure how we go. We might not even get through this whole game, but I think it's going to be a ripping contest down there. I lean towards the Giants. I think they play reasonably good footy. As I said last week, I think they're probably up there with Brisbane as the two favourites. Hawthorn have been really, really good. They played well against Sydney, and then it's hard to line up their form since then, as you just touched on, against Essendon, and then last week as well against Carlton. We just don't know how good Carlton are this year. So this is their first real test. We know how well they play down in Tasmania, generally speaking, but the Giants is a different outfit. They'll be fresh, potentially get a few back as well. So it sets up as a ripping contest. 2 great games on Saturday night. You got the Lions and Geelong, but I'm leaning towards the Giants in a bit of an upset.
Yeah, that's a nice segue into our multi. Last week, we only got 1 leg up. I'm lucky not to get 2. I had Collingwood to cover -7.5, and I think they won that game by 6 points or something. Real nail biter right down to the finish. I had the Crows to win. You had Levi Ashcroft, 25-plus touches, and then Harry Sheasel, 35-plus. No good on those 2, but we're going to reload. We need to get a win on the board nice and early to match the NRL show. I'm going to start us off. I'm taking the Dogs to beat Carlton on Friday night. I thought the Dogs were pretty good over the final stages there against Collingwood last week. And then I'm going to take North Melbourne plus 41.5 against the Adelaide Crows. I know you're a little bit worried about this one, but keep in mind the Crows just allowed Essendon, a team that has basically no forward line whatsoever, to kick 100 points. So I'm just a little bit questionable on the Crows defensively right now. What have you got for us?
Yes, I don't mind it, Ryan. I'm going to back you in. I'm going to go Gold Coast head-to-head to beat Melbourne. So time to record where they're just slight favourites, a couple of cents favourites. So I think that'll get up. And then the Giants to cover. So as I said, I think the Giants are a good bet down there in Tasmania. I think they can get the job done. However, we'll take the $1.90, get on the board with a 12.5 margin.
I like it. To recap, we've got the Dogs to win, we've got the Suns to win, a GWS to cover against the Hawks, North to cover against the Crows, $13.03. Let's get one home, Rocky. We need it, mate.
Plenty of juice. We'll be on the board this week.
Good on you, mate.
Good on you, Ryan.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website